The Honorable Madam Puji Suci Sukumaningrum, SE CIFP, Universitas Erlangga, sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very warm welcome we bid to our The Honorable Mr. Azizi bin Cik Suman, Senior Lecturer, Department of Shariah and Economics, Academy of Islamic Studies, University Malaya. The Honorable Madam Puji Suci Sukumaningrum, SE CIFP, Universitas Erlangga, respected lecturers and distinguished guests from Department of Shariah and Economics, University Malaya, and Department of Islamic Economics, Universitas Erlangga. Welcome to our guest lecture. Today with the topic of microfinancing via Islamic banking institution, a study in Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, ITEC Department of Shariah and Economics, University Malaya, in collaboration with Department of Islamic Economics, Universitas Erlangga. Before we go further, let us begin with the recitation of dua by Muhammad Akmal Arif bin Muhammad Zulkifli. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Hamdan hamidin, hamdan syakirin, hamdan yuafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhikal karim wa azim sultanik. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma nawwir qulubana binuri hidayatik kama nawwartal arda binuri syamsik abadan abada birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbana shrah lana sudurana wa yassir lana umurana wahlul 'uqdatam min alsinatina yafqahu aqwalana. Fahamna Sulaiman wa kullan atayna hukman wa ilma wa sakharna ma'a Dawud al-jibala yusabbihna wat-tayr wa kunna fa'ilin. Allahumma ij'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqna min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al Allahumma fina wa la ma'ana wa la man yatba'una shaqiyyan wa la matruda wa la mahruma. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman wa la taj'al fi qulubina ghillan lil ladzina amanu rabbana innaka ra'ufur rahim. Rabbana 'alaika tawakkalna wa ilaika anabna wa ilaikal masir. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you, Muhammad Akmal Arif bin Muhammad Zulkifli, for reciting the. May our events be blessed and run accordingly, inshallah. Before we proceed with our event, we kindly ask participants to fill in the attendance form in Zoom chat column. Without further ado, I would like to invite Madam Puji Suci Sukmaningrum, who will be the moderator for our event today. Madam Puji Suci Sukmaningrum, the floor is yours.
Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Miss Akila. Okay, Your Excellency, our guest lecturer, Mr. Azizi Pinche Seman from University of Malaya, and also lecturers and students who have attended this program, this morning event. Okay, before we start our guest lecture, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Puji Suci Sukmaningrum. As a moderator today, this morning, and also in the afternoon, I also a lecturer in Islamic Economics Department, Universitas Erlangga. Okay, this morning, we will consist of two sections. In the first section, our guest will present the material. The topic is Microfinancing via Islamic Banking Institution, a study on Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad Itecat Mawadah. And then after the presentation, we move to the discussion section. Please, the participants can ask questions by raising hands or maybe writing in the chat room. Okay. I will, before we begin, maybe I will introduce our guest lecturer. Our guest lecturer today, this morning, is Mr. Azizi Pinche Seman. He's a senior lecturer in Department of Shariah and Economics, Academy of Islamic Studies, University Malaya, and now he have duties in a coordinator of industrial training faculty, and then the academic qualification is he is a master in the International Islamic University Malaysia, and also if I read the profile, he has many publications and research. Okay. Next, I want to invite Mr. Azizi Pinche Seman. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Azizi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, madam.
How are you, Mr.?
Fine, alhamdulillah. And you?
Alhamdulillah, sehat. Okay, Mr. Azizi, maybe you can explain a bit about what we will discuss today.
Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir bi ajril khair. Very good morning to everybody. Thank you, Madam Moderator, Madam Puji, our sister MC, Sister Akila Zaimi, fellow lecturers, students, and participants to the Virtual Mobility Program guest lecture. Today, I believe, is the second day or second week. We started last week with two lectures, and today we will be having one lecture in the morning and another one after Zuhur, inshallah. I picked a topic. Maybe I can just, before that, I can just share my screen.
Mr. Azizi, before you start, maybe I can give you, before you start your material, maybe I will inform you that your maximum presentation is about 90 minutes, maybe. Okay.
I believe I will finish before that, inshallah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And then we move to the discussion section. Okay, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. The topic I've selected for today's sharing is microfinancing via Islamic banking institution. Focusing on a product launched, I think, by the end of last month, named Itecat Mawaddah. It is offered by Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, and it is based on two-tier Mudaraba. The selection of this topic is because, number one, microfinancing is, I think it's a general topic discussed by everybody, but Itecat is a product, or is an initiative by Bank Negara Malaysia or Central Bank of Malaysia, initially to help or to assist those affected because of COVID-19 crisis. And it was initially started in Malaysia by Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, and then joined by another two banks, Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad and CIMB Islamic. In Bank Muamalat, the difference is because of the underlying contract or underlying akad. When the product is or was constructed or offered to the participants, it is not based on, usually in microfinancing or microcredit, the bank, Islamic bank or conventional bank may use loans, conventional loans with interest being charged. But Islamic bank, since the interest is not allowed, then they will resort to other forms of financing modes, such as murabahah or tawarruk, for example. But in Bank Muamalat, the underlying contract or underlying concept used to structure this program or this product is Mudaraba. It is quite different from other products. Therefore, I think it is good to have a look on how it is structured, how it is offered to the participants, and what are the challenges faced by the bank, especially in order for them to manage the product. It is relatively very new. 20 participants, if I'm not mistaken, have been selected to join this or to receive this assistance, and it is still on an ongoing process. As I've talked to one of the staff involved in managing the fund, and okay, I think that's the muqaddimah for my lecture today. Okay, I have 3 points. Very brief, actually. Number one is about microfinancing. It is not going to be a very rigorous, in-depth discussion of microfinancing, but I will just go to the overview and some of the historical backgrounds in microfinancing, how it was started, how it was done, and maybe I will look into some the performance report by World Bank regarding microfinancing throughout the world. Secondly, we will go to a product initiated, as I mentioned before, by Bank Negara Malaysia, namely Itecat. And since Itecat was a joint initiative, Bank Negara Malaysia with 3 other banks. We have Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad as the pioneer last year, and then we have also Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad and CIMB. But the focus will be zoomed to Itecat Mawaddah offered by Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad for the reason I've mentioned before. It is because it is based on a quite unfamiliar contract used in microfinancing. Microfinancing, as I've mentioned, usually if it is offered by Islamic banks, since the constraint of cannot have the riba-based financing or riba-based loan, the banks will resort to other types or other modes of financing, such as murabahah, bank zaman ajil, and so on and so forth. Mudarabah is not what we say a common item in the menu, because of the risk associated with mudarabah and maybe some complexity in terms of managing the risk. Therefore, most of the banks are quite shy to use mudarabah in structuring microfinancing in their products. And we will also touch about application of mudarabah in Itecat Mawaddah, how it is done. And as I mentioned briefly, maybe I will be talking about the challenges faced by Bank Muhammad Malaysia Berhad in order for them to manage Itecat Mawaddah based on this mudarabah contract. Okay, let's go to the first topic or subtopic, which is microfinancing. Microfinancing or microfinance, also known as microcredit. I quote this from Investopedia. You can just go and look at Investopedia. You will get this text. It's a type of banking service provided to unemployed or low-income individuals or groups who otherwise would have no other access to financial services. It allows people to have or to take on reasonable small business loans safely and in a manner that is consistent with ethical lending practices. Most of the operations occur in developing nations, like maybe Indonesia. We have in Malaysia AIM. You heard that before. In some other countries, like conventional lenders, microfinanciers charge interest, although it is the aim is to assist the participants, but again, since it is initially based on conventional lending and borrowing, then interest would be there, and institute specific repayment plans. AIM, for example, they have their own module in or their own way to ensure the prompt repayment of the loan by the participants. The World Bank estimates that more than 500 million people have benefited from microfinance related operations. Okay. From this slide, maybe you can start with in the conventional or the ordinal, the usual way of doing banking. Banks will give loans or financing, if it is a bank, to those who can afford to repay or to pay back the amount being financed or the amount being lent to the borrower. There are many situations in which we have, for example, the poor persons or the poor families or individuals. They have the capability, they have the capacity, they have the expertise to do business, but they are facing, or they have some problems in the sense that they cannot have enough money to buy raw materials, for example. Okay? For example, in Bangladesh, okay? We usually associate microfinance or microcredit with Dr. Muhammad Yunus, a professor of economics at the University of Chittagong. Yeah? In the 70s, 1975, if I'm not mistaken, started with Grameen Bank. And I quote, in the midst of a famine, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, professor of economics at the University of Chittagong, was becoming disillusioned with the abstract theories of economics that failed to explain why so many people were starving in Bangladesh. Okay? what they need is only $27 loan. So the $27 loan was born as a practical solution. In the village of Jobra in Bangladesh, Dr. Yunus discovered that a group of 42 women made a bamboo stool stack, but did not have the money to purchase the raw materials for them. They have the expertise, they have the know-how, but they do not have the money to buy the raw materials. As a result, they will be in the cycle of debt to the community traders. The traders would lend the women the funds they need with one stipulation. They would sell the stools at a price only slightly higher than the cost of the raw materials. Then the problem is they can do their business, or they can perform their work, but the money that they gain is not enough to make them or to enable them exit from the poverty situation. So Dr. Muhammad Yunus' idea was to lend them an amount of money, a very minimal amount, $27 in fact, of his own money, which covered the borrowing needs of the 42 women combined, by selling their stools at fair price, rather than selling it to the original lender. They can sell their output or their products in the market at a higher price. They therefore were able to climb out of their debt cycle. Okay? With this success, the model was we can say copied in other countries with maybe some tweaking here and there, different approaches, and it was proven to a certain extent that it can help and assist those who are previously poor to exit from the poverty situation. Okay. The problem faced by those people, or those group of people, is they cannot afford, as I mentioned before, they can't afford to have a loan or financing from the conventional or the traditional banks. Because in the banking business, when you apply for a loan, when you apply for financing, the bank will scrutinize, will look into your capability. Are you capable of repaying the financing or not? If you are not, then you are not eligible for any loan from the bank. But microfinancing, since it is applied, or it is extended to a very specific, a very special group of people, those who initially cannot or do not have any access to the traditional banking system, the people can, with microfinancing, can have access to the banking products, and with that product they can alleviate, or they can improve their life, and can instead of being poor sampai bila-bila, they can exit the poverty trap and can improve their life after that. Another definition by this is by World Bank. Microfinance can be defined as attempts to provide financial services to households and micro enterprises excluded from traditional commercial banking services. Typically, these are low-income, self-employed, or informally employed individuals with no formalized ownership titles on their assets and with limited formal identification papers. So again, like the one, or as I mentioned before, it is microfinancing is targeted to a certain group of people or individuals in the society. The objective of microfinancing, among others, are to address the issue of financial inclusion. What is financial inclusion? Financial inclusion, in a very brief definition, can refers to the access by enterprises and households to reasonably priced and appropriate formal financial services that meet the needs of the enterprise and households. Access to financial services can be defined along several dimensions, including geographic access, that is proximity to a financial service provider, socioeconomic access, that is absence of prohibitive fees and documentation requirements. We have situations in rural area, for example. There are people who live very far from the city or nearby. The nearby city may be 2 or 3 hours journey. Therefore, they can't have the luxury of the people in the town to access the banks, for example, to have ATM cards, to have a financing product or loan from the banks. That's what is meant by geographic access. And socioeconomic access, if they can have loans, for example, the loans would be provided, but with a very high interest rate, or if in many cases it is provided or offered by we term here as along, money lender, who charge a very prohibitive interest rate that would hinder them from getting benefit from whatever expertise that they have. Therefore, they have the expertise, they can produce what they want to produce, but when they sell the product, they sell it to the lender, and the lender will usually buy the product at a very low prices, and therefore those people will continually be trapped in the poverty trap throughout their life. You can refer this from IEG working paper 2015, number 4, Microfinance, a Critical Literature Survey. The link is provided here. Okay. And from Bank Negara Malaysia perspective, microfinancing is small business loans up to 50,000 ringgit. If I'm not mistaken, it is it ranges from 500 ringgit to 50,000 ringgit for micro enterprises and self-employed individuals. Microfinancing is meant for business financing only, such as working capital and for capital expenditure. It is not a personal loan. You can't have microfinancing for your personal use. It is usually meant for business purposes. You want to do certain business, but you do not have enough money or to buy raw materials or as a working capital, then microfinancing, and you do not have the capability or the, for example, you are not a registered company. You are not the one who have certain collateral that can be collateralized or can be surrendered to the bank as a security. Then in those situations, microfinancing is, I think, is one of the best alternatives. Microfinance products offered by financial institutions typically have the following key features. One, small loans ranging from 500 ringgit to 50,000 ringgit. Flexible collateral requirements. In some cases, the collateral or the security is not required. Flexible loan tenure ranging from 1 month to 5 years. Simple loan procedures allowing for fast disbursement instead of having have to fill up many forms presenting certain documents, you can just have a very minimal amount of documents and get the microfinancing. Incentive to encourage good repayment practices. For those who, for example, serve the payment promptly, then they will be the charge will be lower, for example. That is the microfinancing from BNM's perspective. Again, the reference is here from bnm.gov.my. The modern use of the expression of microfinancing, I mentioned before, has roots in the 1970s. Just a very brief historical background. When Grameen Bank of Bangladesh, founded by microfinance pioneer Muhammad Yunus, was starting and shaping the modern industry of microfinancing. Although microfinancing was known prior to that in the I think 1960s or even in the previous century, in our literature, we usually found Dr. Muhammad Yunus' name with Grameen Bank story when we refer to microfinancing literatures. The approach of microfinance was institutionalized by Yunus in 1970s, 1976, with foundation of Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. Another pioneer in this sector is a Pakistani social scientist, Akhtar Hamid Khan. That's a very brief on the history of microfinancing in the modern world. In Malaysia, microfinancing products offered by the banks are not new. We can look into, we have a document here. I'm not sure whether, okay, I think I should share my screen. If I click here, I have actually have this, okay, so yeah. Can you see the site? Or do you still see?
We can see the site, Doctor.
You can see the site from Bengal.
Cannot.
You can't. Okay. Okay. I think I have to reshare advanced sharing options. Oh, I have to unshare and then share again.
Yes.
Okay, I have to share. Okay, this one. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Comparative table on pembiayaan micro product features 2020. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, it is in your view. So in this is from Bank Negara. Comparative table on pembiayaan micro product features 2020. As you can see, from Bank Negara perspective, we have a number of banks involved in microfinancing. For example, we have Agro Bank, Bank Rakyat, Bank Simpanan Nasional. Those are development institutions. Alliance Bank, M-Bank, CIMB, Bank Islam, Bank Muamalat, Maybank, Public Bank, and UOB or United Overseas Bank, the commercial banks in Malaysia. Okay, apart from these three first banks, these are the DFI. Other than those are the commercial banks. And they have so many products. For example, in Agro Bank, Agro Modal Usahawan 1 Malaysia I, Agro Musim I, Islamic, Agro Trust or NISA I. In Bank Rakyat, they have Skim Pembiayaan Mikro, Mas Modal Usahawan Kecil, Skim Pembiayaan Makro, MEF, Skim Pembiayaan Mikro Individu, Skim Pembiayaan Mikro I, tanpa panel, and so on and so forth. For Bank Muamalat, they have Muamalat Term Financing Tawarruk, BNM Micro. Those products, this is in 2020. Itecat is not listed here except for Bank Islam, since Bank Islam was the first who started or initiated the Itecat program. They are listed here, but then Muamalat is not there yet. Usually they use, again, for example, Muslim, if I'm not mistaken, use tawarruk. Okay? The listed products usually use tawarruk or bank bisaman ajil or bank murabahah in some cases as the for the Islamic banks. For the conventional ones, for example, Easy Cash or UOB, it is conventional loan. PB Microfinance, conventional, again the conventional loan. We have SME Microfinancing, both conventional and Islamic in Maybank or by Maybank, and Micro Plus, conventional. When it is stated as conventional, then logically or usually it is based on the conventional loan with interest being charged. But when you talk about Islamic banks, since Islamic banks cannot have interest in their products, they can give loans, they can extend card, but card without any additional charges. So can it be done? It is, or it was being done in certain products, if I'm not mistaken, although it is not stated or recorded here, but there were certain banks that give what we term as soft loan card without any additional charges. But in many situations, since a bank is a commercial entity with a profit-oriented objective, then they have or they will charge certain amount. Therefore, the usual approach of offering microcredit products is using tawarruk or a tawarruk-like sale-based contracts. Another points here are the range of loan or financing given by the institutions. From if we look at the table, we can have the minimum amount is 1,000 ringgit and the maximum is 50,000. Okay, across the board. The purpose of financing, usually working capital and capital expenditure. The tenure range from 1 month to 5 years. 1 month to 5 years. For example, in this second column, Bank Rakyat, you can have microfinancing for a minimum of 1 month. Okay, another point to look at here is the financing rate. Okay, the first bank, this is Agrobank, 7.92%. Second one, 8.25 to 14.55, 6.38, 7, 11.26, and the list goes on up to 24% or 30% per annum. For example, here, the charge is as high as 30% per annum. Okay, so the charge is there. Why? When you ask the bankers, they will give a response like this. Since the participants or the recipients or the borrower do not have, for example, any collateral, and their risk or the risk associated with them is quite high, then it is the amount or the rate would be appropriate for them. It's quite high, in my opinion. The eligibility and other items are listed here. You can just go to the Bank Negara site, or you can Google microfinancing BNM. You will stumble upon this table. Okay, balik kepada can we go back to the yang asal tadi, screen, iPhone, power. Okay. Okay. This one, dah tadi. Okay. Now let's go into the second point, Itecat. What is Itecat? Itecat initially started in 2020, March by Bank Negara Malaysia. The details of Itecat is documented in one file or one document published by Bank Negara Malaysia in March 2020, the one that I circled here. The bank, i.e. Bank Negara, initiated a pilot program called Itecat, which stands for My Determination. Tekat maknanya tekad lah, determination. The Itecat program blends social finance with microfinancing and structured training. Ada social finance, there are social finance there, microfinancing elements or microfinancing elements, and structured training. So the financing is not given as is without any assistance. The bank will lend money or will extend financing to the participants, and in addition, they will provide training for the participants in order for them to succeed in their business. They will be trained. This program aims to empower low-income micro-entrepreneurs to generate more sustainable income, become practically or financially resilient, and subsequently contribute back to the community. The aim or the objective is to alleviate or to make them exit the poverty trap so that they will become successful entrepreneur, and in the end, it is hoped that they can help or they can assist other entrepreneurs to be like them. Okay, and the first pilot program, if I can go to this document. Sorry, we have to change the view number of times. Okay, this one. Okay. This is another document from Bank Negara Malaysia. In 2020, the global crisis caused by COVID-19 affected most of the countries, and many people who previously maybe have done some businesses or have works, but due to COVID-19, they suffered a lot. And they have their expertise, they have their will to do businesses, but they do not have the money to start with. So Bank Negara Malaysia initiated an approach termed as Itecat, and it was started with Bank Negara Malaysia. Kalau kat sini kita lihat gambar ni, majlis perasmian. Okay. The first pilot program commenced in wilayah persekutuan with 3 implementation partners, namely Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad (BIMB), Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan, and SME Corporation. And the picture depicted here is the minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Dr. Zulkifli Al-Bakri, launching Itecat on 14th May 2020, witnessed by Deputy Governor Abdul Rashid Ghafur, CEO Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, Encik Muhammad Muazzam Muhammad. And the details of Itecat is mentioned in the documents. Okay, B40, it is meant for Asnaf and B40 especially, because they have difficulties in accessing formal financial services. Again, the financial inclusion issue for a number of reasons. Many are weighed down by lack of business and financial track records, inadequate. Prior to this, they may be working in certain jobs, for example, but due to the crisis, they have to quit the job and want to start business, no money. Those are the targeted group for this program. Inadequate business and financial management skills, never done any business before, but willing to learn and to be trained in that area. Business activities that tend to be of higher risk. Though through incorporating social finance features in financing solutions, B40 entrepreneurs can avail themselves of more funding options beyond debt-based financing to sustain or expand their business. Okay, beyond debt-based financing, they can have debt-based financing, but in the approach, I think the approach by Bank Islam is done with the incorporation of zakat and sadaqah. Importantly, the upskilling, mentoring, and impact-based monitoring of achievements further increase the likelihood of success in their business ventures and greater financial resilience over the longer term. The effective implementation of Itecat program will continue to require strong commitment from all stakeholders, as its delivery mechanism is more resource intensive compared to the traditional ways of delivering finance. It is more taxing to the bank actually because of the monitoring process. Even in the selection process at the initial stage will require the bank, Bank Islam, Bank Muamalat, and CIMB Islamic, for example, to carefully select the participants, because you can't have just anybody join the program. You have to make sure that the participant or the prospective participants do have the willingness to do their business, the right attitude, and they will be trained throughout the tenure in order for them to do their business or their entrepreneurship. Given the highly positive experience thus far, the Itecat program will be further expanded in 2021. This was in 2020, and in 2021 they have Itecat 2.0 joined by Bank Amalat and CIMB Islamic. Okay, these are the key challenges faced by B40 entrepreneurs: lack of business and financial track records, and inadequate business and financial management skills. It is tackled by components of Itecat, which are collateral-free microfinancing, funding for initial capital or asset purchase, sourced from zakat funds. Okay, this was in Bank Islam. Training and business mentoring by implementation partners or certified partners. You can read this, although this was the initial version of Itecat, again by Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, but it was to read this document to get the overview or the background of how and why Itecat was initially started by Bank Negara Malaysia. Okay, let's go back to the slide. In one of the paper, strategy paper, value-based intermediation, VBI. Yeah, VBI is another initiative by Bank Negara Malaysia. The title of the paper is Strengthening the Roles and Impact of Islamic Finance, BNM Strategy Paper 2018, March 12, by a quote here by Muhammad bin Ibrahim, Governor Bank Negara Malaysia. The rapid changes and dynamism of the industry require Islamic finance to strive even harder now. True to its name, Islamic finance needs to continuously carve its own branding and distinctiveness to provide wholesome value propositions. On this premise, the next frontier and the major milestones would be positioning Islamic finance to become more prominent and leading agents of positive change for the financial system, and operates within a network economy that is built upon shared values of integrity, inclusivity, and sustainability. Great attention will be devoted to value creation and value-based business that reflect the true essence of Islamic finance. In my opinion, Itecat and other initiatives are the extension or the consequence of the VBI initiative by Bank Negara during 2017-2018. Itecat initiative, other key measures to support the economy include the reduction of overnight policy rate. This is from the document by Bank Negara Malaysia. The one I've highlighted here, expansion of the Itecat, the blended finance program, which combines social finance fund, including zakat, cash wakaf, and social impact investment with microfinancing to provide seed capital and working capital for micro entrepreneurs. In addition, the program was expanded to include upskilling elements. As of 31st July 2021, Itecat by Bank Islam, Bank Muamalat was not there during that time, has enrolled 98 micro entrepreneurs under a structured training program with approved microfinancing and zakat funds of approximately 2 million ringgit. Quite an amount. In addition to Wilayah Persekutuan, the program has now been expanded to include Selangor and Perlis, the participation of 2 additional Islamic banks. At this time, CIMB Islamic and Bank Muamalat will further increase the impact and reach of the program. It is mentioned in the Bank Negara document, and that lead to Itecat, the expanded Itecat, or in other documents known as Itecat 2.0. Okay. This is also from Itecat, from Bank Negara Malaysia. If you can see at the address bnm.gov.my/COVID-19. As previously mentioned, Itecat is one of the steps taken by Bank Negara or by the government to soften or to tackle the economic issues related from the COVID-19 crisis. Expanded Itecat program supports larger group of micro entrepreneurs. The Itecat program, introduced on a pilot basis in Wilayah Persekutuan May 2020, is now expanded to Selangor and Perlis, mentioned in the previous slide, and further enhanced by the participation of 2 additional Islamic banks. In addition to zakat, the new Itecat, previously Bank Islam, they use zakat. By Bank Muamalat, the product by Bank Muamalat, the new Itecat solutions will involve a wider range of social finance instruments, namely cash wakaf and social impact investment. That social impact investment, or Mudaraba, is the one chosen by Bank Malaysia Berhad to structure their Itecat product or Itecat Mawaddah to provide seed capital for asset acquisition, complementing microfinancing and training components. The original training components or training is still there. The blended finance feature of the program enables low-income micro entrepreneurs to gain access to funding to start and sustain their businesses. With upskilling and mentoring, participants of the Itecat program will have more opportunities to improve their business acumen to generate higher revenue and income. Furthermore, the focus on impact assessments helps micro entrepreneurs track their progress and attain measurable outcomes. As at 31st of July this year, Itecat has enrolled 98 micro entrepreneurs, approved microfinancing and zakat funds of approximately 2 million. This was by Bank Islam, and at the bottom of the page, listed Itecat participating banks and their program names. Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, Itecat Microfinancing Program. CIMB Islamic Bank Berhad, Rider Entrepreneur Program. Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, the one that I'll be focusing after this, Itecat Mawaddah Program. And for Itecat Mawaddah, it's a program. It is a program according to Cik Khairul Kamarudin, President and CEO of Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. It is a unique program as it incorporates the Sharia innovation of two-tier Mudaraba. I mentioned earlier, usually the banks, the Islamic banks especially, will not be using Mudarabah as their product in microfinancing. Even in the conventional or the traditional financing, Mudarabah is not the preferred way of structuring financing products. There are products based on Mudarabah, but the risk associated with Mudarabah is the I think the reasons why those banks are quite hesitant to have their products structured on the basis of Mudarabah. Under this new concept, but Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad accept the challenge and they structured this product based on Mudarabah, and it is a two-tier Mudarabah. A two-tier Mudarabah is a Mudarabah involves one tier from between investors and the bank, and second tier is between the bank and the participants. Under this new concept, the bank will source funds from investors to invest in businesses owned by the B40 individuals and micro entrepreneurs. The profit and loss of each business will be shared with the respective investors. And Itecat Mawaddah, the feature of this product, among others, are number one, it is a restricted investment account product. A restricted investment account product, or in Muamalat termed as RIA, RIA, unrestricted URIA, unrestricted investment account. This one is restricted investment account. What differs in RIA from URIA? From the fiqhi perspective, we can look at this issue by the term of Mudarabah Mutlaqah versus Mudarabah Muqayyadah. Mudarabah Mutlaqah is unrestricted investment, and Mudarabah Mutlaqah is unrestricted investment, and Mudarabah Muqayyadah is the restricted version of the product. What are the differences between those restricted and unrestricted? As the name suggests, restricted investment or restricted Mudarabah or Mudarabah Muqayyadah is a mode or a type of Mudarabah whereby the Rabbul Mal or the capital provider, Rabbul Mal is the capital provider, the capital provider states what can be done and what cannot be done with the capital. You can invest, you means the Mudarib or the Amil or the entrepreneur, the one who is doing the business. You can do this, you can venture into this business, you can sell, you can buy and sell these products, but you cannot have this product, you can't involve in this business, you can't sell your product in this area, and so on and so forth. It is termed as restricted Mudarabah or Mudarabah Muqayyadah. If a person, for example, A, the Rabbul Mal or the capital provider, handed the money or the capital to the the Mudarib or the Amil or the entrepreneur, and said, this is 1,000 ringgit or 10,000 ringgit, you just do whatever business, as long as it is halal, then I'm okay with it. We will distribute the profit with this 50-50, 70-30, or whatever rate they agree upon. That is considered as Mudarabah Mutlaqah. In Mudarabah Mutlaqah, the entrepreneur or the one who received the money or received the fund will have the authority to do whatever he or she wants to do with the money in the context of doing business, i.e. it is not confined or it's not restricted to do certain businesses, in a certain way, or to have the business conducted in certain places, and so on and so forth. It is not tied with that kind of restrictions. But in Mudarabah Muqayyadah, or restricted investment or restricted Mudarabah, there are restrictions, there are conditions, there are the do's and don'ts in terms of doing business that has to be complied or to be adhered by the mudarib or by the entrepreneur, based on whatever mentioned by the Rabbul Mal. Itecat Muaddah, again mentioned in the previous slide, it is designed on two-tier Mudarabah model between capital provider, Rabbul Mal, and entrepreneur or mudarib. The fund or capital will be invested in business operated by the Asnaf and B40. B40 is under Fi Sabilillah. Target industries under Itecat Muaddah program are, there are 3 industries identified. Number 1, F&B or food and beverages, agriculture, and gig economy. I'm not sure to date what are the details of these 3 in terms of money or fund distributed, but I believe the bank is doing their best in order for them to have all these sectors be included or as in the participant list. The entrepreneurs, as a continuation from the previous slide, the entrepreneurs or participants will have structured training. Apart from getting money, getting fund from the bank, they will also be provided structured training and mentoring provided by training consultants identified by the bank. The training consultant will be responsible to train and guide the participant to ensure success of the business. In this situation, again, it is the aim of Itecat as a general product or general initiative by Bank Negara, not to just give money, but to assist or to train the participants how to do their business, how to do their accounts, how to manage their money, to manage their money in, money out. Okay? Because some of the people or some of the prospective participants, they might have previous business, but they do not have the know-how. They get the money. By the end of the day, they get the money. I spoke to one of my friends in Bank Muamalat. He said they have the money, even maybe 1,000 ringgit per day. But when you ask them, where does the money goes? They can't answer. Because the management or the account management is not there. They will mix the money with their money and spend the money to for other purposes, instead of restricting or confining the money to be spent or to be used in the context of the business. They will spend the money for other purposes outside the business. Therefore, money come in, but they do not know, they can't retain that amount. So they will, the way they spend the money is not that good. And the training provided by the consultant will, to some extent, assist or help them manage their income from the business. The training consultant will be responsible to train and guide the participants to ensure success of the business. Profit, okay. Profit will be shared between Rabbul Mal and Mudarib based on agreed PSR. One of the arkan or the pillars of Mudarabah is the profit. One of the most important element in Mudarabah is the profit, and the profit here will be shared between Rabbul Mal and Mudarib. And we have two-tier Mudarabah, so we have two tier or two sets of Rabbul Mal and Mudarib. Okay? I'll be showing a diagram depicting this after this. Loss will be borne in Mudarabah. The profit will be shared according to the pre-agreed profit sharing ratio. PSR is profit sharing ratio. But if should any loss happen, then the loss will be borne by the investors, the money provider or the capital provider solely, not the Mudarib. The Mudarib is not liable to the loss incurred in the business unless it is due to one or more of the three listed here. Number one, ta'addi or misconduct, sengaja menyebabkan kerugian, taksir ataupun in negligence ataupun kecuaian, and number three is mukhalafati syurut, breach of specified terms. We ask you to do this kind of businesses, but you resort into other type of businesses, then that would be considered of breach of specified terms or mukhalafati syurut. If there is a loss there, then that loss will be made good by the entrepreneur. It is not going to be borne by the investor. But if the entrepreneur has done everything mentioned in the TNC or terms and conditions, without any ta'addi, without any misconduct, without any negligence, no breach of the terms specified in the agreement, but due to external factors, loss happened, that loss will be borne by the investors solely. So if the investors put, for example, 10,000 ringgit in that business, and the business conducted by the participants for example 1 year, by the end of the year, when they want to close the account, it is found that 10,000, after selling everything, 10,000 becomes 8,000 ringgit. That 2,000 ringgit loss will solely be borne by the investors, and it is not to be the entrepreneurs is not accountable or not liable to pay back that 2,000 ringgit to the investors. And in Mudarabah, you can't guarantee the profit, you can't guarantee the principal. If you guarantee the principal, then it will violate the very principle of Mudarabah, and it is considered as akad fasid. Okay? It is not allowed in Sharia. Let's look at Mudarabah. I've mentioned Mudarabah a number of times before. A very brief about Mudarabah. Mudarabah is a contract. For this, I will be referring to PD Mudarabah. Down here, I state PD Mudarabah. PD stands for Policy Documents Mudarabah by Bank Negara Malaysia. If I'm not mistaken, Bank Negara Malaysia has published 14 PD or policy documents in relation with the contracts or Sharia contracts used in the Islamic banking or takaful industries in Malaysia. And one of them is PD Mudaraba. Clause 10.1 states that Mudaraba is a contract between a capital provider or Rabbul Mal and an entrepreneur. Sorry, there are two ends there. Mudarib, under which the Rabbul Mal provides capital to be managed by Rabbul Mal provides capital to be managed by the Mudarib, and the profit generated from the capital is shared between the Rabbul Mal and the Mudarib according to a mutually agreed profit sharing ratio or PSR. Financial loss, should there be, are borne by the Rabbul Mal, provided that such loss are not due to the Mudarib's misconduct, negligence, or breach of specific terms, or ta'addi, taqsir, and mukhalafat shurut, as mentioned before. Okay, this is from the Mudarabah PD. And clause 16.11 or 16.11 in the same document, in a multi-tiered, because I mentioned in Itecat Mawaddah, the concept used is multi-tiered mudarabah or two-tier mudarabah. In multi-tiered mudarabah, two or more profit-sharing arrangement may be agreed upon. In the first tier, Rabbul Mal and Mudarib may agree on certain PSR, for example, 50-50. In the second tier, Rabbul Mal, who is the Mudarib in the first tier mudarabah, and the other Mudarib, the ultimate Mudarib, for example, or the ultimate entrepreneur, may agree on another PSR. Initially, it is 50-50, 50%, 50%, and the second stage, let's say 90-10. Okay? It can be done in that way. Such arrangement may apply to the following tier, respectively, if you have 3-tier mudarabah, although I think I've not come across any structure consists of more than 2-tier mudarabah. The profit generated in each tier shall be shared according to the respective PSR. So when it comes to profit distribution, the distribution will be made first at the last tier. For example, if you have 2-tier mudarabah, the profit will be number one, distributed between participants or Rabbul Mal and Mudarib in tier 2. Okay. The Rabbul Mal in tier 2, because he or she is the Mudarib in tier 1, will share his or her part of profit with the ultimate funder or ultimate capital provider in tier 1. This is Mudarabah PD 16.11. And in 2-tier Mudarabah, in Itecat Mawaddah, it is done between investor or Rabbul Mal and Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad as the Mudarib. The investor who provide the capital or the money, BMMB acts as Mudarib in the first year. Lapisan pertama, Rabbul Mal atau duit datang daripada investor from the capital provider, pelabur yang ada, BMMB menerimanya sebagai Mudarib. And in second tier, BMMB, banyak dah pula B tu, BMMB, Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, acts as Rabbul Mal. And the money actually comes from the investor. But in the second tier, BMMB get or use that money to do the mudarabah between BMMB and the participants of the program or the Itecat Mawaddah program, or the ultimate entrepreneur, actually, the Mudarib. That's the tiering in Mudarabah. This is the product structure of Itecat Mawaddah. We have first tier here, source of fund from the investor or the Rabbul Mal, given to the bank as the Mudarib in the first year, and the PSR is 70-30. Yes, 70% will go to the Rabbul Mal, 30% will go to the bank. And the bank will use that money, for example, 10,000 ringgit from here to the There's a point. Okay, and this one will be clear. Okay, 10,000 ringgit goes from source of fund or the investor to the bank, and the bank will put that 10,000 ringgit and place it to the entrepreneurs. Okay. Again, that 10,000 ringgit from here will be placed with the entrepreneurs, or will be channeled to the entrepreneurs via the bank, in which the first layer here, or the first tier, is the Mudaraba between those ultimate investor and the bank as the Mudarib. And in the second tier, or in second layer, the bank act as Rabbul Mal, does the Mudarabah again with the ultimate Mudarib, or the ultimate entrepreneurs, with PSR 595. 95% will go to the entrepreneurs, and 5% will go to the Mudarib. For example, okay, if I can draw show whether okay. For example, if the capital provided here is 10K, that 10K will go to the entrepreneurs. And let's assume after 1 year that 10,000 ringgit produce a profit of, for example, 1,000 ringgit. Okay. Meaning that the whole business, after deducting all the costs, dapatlah 1,000 ringgit in the end of the tenure, and that 1,000 ringgit will be shared between I have problem with my pen. I think the battery is out or the pen is out. Okay, that 1,000 ringgit will be shared between the Mudarib, the Mudarib here and the Rabbul Mal in the second tier, which is the bank. 950 will go to the Mudarib, and 50 ringgit will go to the bank as Rabbul Mal. And that 50 is brought here and to be segregated between the Rabbul Mal, the original or the ultimate Rabbul Mal, the investors, and the bank as the Mudarib in the first year at 70-30, meaning that 50 ringgit, 35 ringgit will go to the Rabbul Mal, and the balance 15 ringgit will be retained by the bank. So the bank as a whole will get 15 ringgit, and the okay, the Rabbul Mal will get 35 ringgit out of the initial investment. Okay, this is the profit sharing ratio. I took this from a document provided by Bank Amalat. NPK is PSR. A PSR between the bank and the investors, 595, and the bank as the capital provider in the second tier, vis-a-vis or against the usahawan or the entrepreneur, 70-30. PSR is subject to review, however, and will be determined by BMMB from time to time. The review must be agreed by all parties. If you have any interest in knowing, or you can look at the policy documents of Mudarabah, for the details on how Mudaraba works in the context of Malaysia, for example. Okay, these are the media statements by the bank regarding Itecat Mawaddah. Dalam ni ada disebutkan Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad menyerahkan sijil permintaan Itecat baru lagi 28 end of September 2021, program keusahawanan yang bercirikan keuangan sosial dan konsep syariah mudarabah pada 10 usahawan perintis. They started with 10 entrepreneurs melalui satu sesi yang diadakan secara maya because of COVID-19. Bagi program ini, Bank Muamalat menyediakan platform pelaburan patuh syariah bertujuan memberikan tunangan yang kompetitif kepada pelabur. Usahawan yang menyertai program ini berlandaskan konsep mudarabah, menerima dana daripada pelabur untuk menjalankan perniagaan mereka. Keuntungan dijana akan dikongsi di antara usahawan dan pelabur. Sekiranya berlaku kerugian, ia akan ditanggung oleh pelabur sahaja. Itecat Mawaddah menyediakan modal kerja sehingga RM10,000. The maximum is RM10,000 plus training. The training is provided free untuk setiap usahawan daripada golongan asnaf dan B40 yang terpilih. Okay. This is the press statement on the commencement of Itecat Mawaddah on the 28th of September this year. And there was also a media release, this one in August 2021, jointly released by the three banks, Bank Islam, Bank Muamalat and CIMB. Again, regarding the Itecat Mawaddah, 4 pages here. And here we have some keratan berita regarding this initiative. Okay, Bank Muamalat tawar mudah kerja latihan percuma. Okay. Bantu asnaf 40 peniaga Bank Muamalat CIMB Islamic sertai Itecat 2.0. And this is the documents or brochure for Itecat Mawaddah of Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. I think that concludes my presentation, Madam Moderator, and I open for any question and answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Azizi. Very exciting material today. Okay, now it's time for us to get into the discussion session. To all participants, you can drop your question in the chat room, or maybe you can raise your hands if you want to ask the question directly. Okay. Okay, maybe our students still prepare the question, Dr. Azizi. Maybe I have 2 questions. Maybe we can discuss while waiting our student asking. Okay, Doctor? Okay. I want to ask about from your explanation that you said that the Islamic bank not required the collateral, right?
Yeah.
Not require the collateral. So how the Islamic bank in Malaysia to maintain the risk, because it can be the trigger to trigger increasing the NPF also. And the second, maybe you can give us the information. Is there any microfinance institution in Malaysia other than Islamic banks? Maybe. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, it is the 2 questions just to begin the discussion, but we still waiting the question from the students and our lecture. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. As for the first one, some banks do not require collaterals. Yes, in many cases, as I know, because the problem here is the participants or the recipients of the fund They have expertise. They have the willingness to do the business, but they do not have the money. They do not have the money. They do not have the resources. They do not have the assets to be charged as collaterals. And there are avenues provided by certain banks in order for those individuals to have to venture into business, but with certain conditions. And that's why, yes, the risk is there, and the risk is very high. And that's why we can see certain banks do charge quite, for me, quite high, up to 30% profit charge or interest rate in order for them to give or to extend the financing or the loan. NPF, yes, it is prone to NPF issue or NPL issue in conventional sense. But as I know, in microfinancing, it is not as easy as in the conventional or the traditional financing to get the money. You have to, although they say no papers are required, you do not have to prepare for collaterals, but the banks do scrutinize and get into the details and get to know in the banking industry, know your customer. KYC is a must when you interact with your clients, be it the borrower or whatever clients or financing recipients. And in this context, I specifically talk about Itecat Mawaddah Bank Amalat. The recipients are filtered out. I'm not the one who do do the job or involved directly in the activities, but I do know someone who is directly involved in selecting the participant, and from the source, that guy stated or said to me, that when a participant, when we selected, because the selection of the participant is done by initially it is done by the participating or apa yang dipanggil the training provider actually. But when it comes to the bank or the staff of the bank will go and investigate the participant, whether this participant is good enough to be assisted or to be included in this program. When other issue that there was a situation whereby a participant registered, but when this officer comes to the participant's place, the address is not right. Dia kata buat di tempat ini, but the stall is not there, or macam-macam lah. Then that one would be sorted out or filtered out. That's why, walaupun tak ada collateral, although there are no collateral required, but other requirements in terms of filtering, in terms of selection process, and so on and so forth, is there. Notwithstanding other modes of microfinancing. For example, in Rahnu for me can be categorized or can be included as another type of microfinancing, but it is collateralized, and it is easier for those with, for example, jewelries, gold or silver, to get financing or to get loans from the financier or from the lender or from the kedai Rahnu places, because they just place their marhun there, get 10,000 ringgit. Even it is a very effective tools for a very short-term lending and borrowing. You can have your loan, or you can obtain your loan in the morning, and you can repay it in the afternoon. You get 1,000 ringgit, put your jewelry there as a collateral, and in the afternoon or the next day you can have your jewelry back, you can pay the 1,000 ringgit plus whatever charges. If it is done using I've talked about this before. If it is done using card, then ujrah for safekeeping, or if it is done using tawarruk, the tawarruk profit would be plus there. As for question number 2, any other microfinance institutions? Yes, there are. For example, Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia. Here we have in Malaysia. I think in Malaysia you do have some a number of microfinance institutions, but the models might be different. The approach or the objective are the same, to alleviate or to empower those who can't afford to have financing or products from the traditional banks or conventional banks. They can use these modes of financing through, for example, the IIM to better themselves or better their life, so that they will not be poor selama-lamanya lah.
Okay, thank you. This our lecture already raised her hands. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Asma.
Waalaikumsalam. Can I
Apa
ask
kabar,
question?
Dokter?
Alhamdulillah. So
Yes,
can
sure.
I ask question to
Yes.
Ustaz?
Okay, please, Dr. Asma.
Okay, so so regarding the Rabbul Mal at the first year of Mudaraba, is it open to any investor who are interested to become the Rabbul Mal, or the bank only open to specific investor only, because the nature of the business, or because the nature of the Mudarabah venture? The first question. And then for second question, since the Mudarib at the second tier of Mudarabah will be chosen from those who are involved in the food and beverages businesses. Are they required to have halal certification, Ustaz? So I think that's question for me. Thank you.
A very technical, down to earth question from Dr. Asma. About the first tier, is it open to any investors? Frankly, this product, I happen to sit in the Syariah Committee for Bank Amalat Malaysia Berhad, and we have a lengthy discussion on this product. Initially, it was not involving multi-tier mudarabah. It was actually structured, if I'm not mistaken, plus zakat, and there are other components there. But lastly, or finally, the end product is based on two-tier mudarabah. So the first tier, initially, I was made to understand that it is open. It is not open publicly. It was initially open to the Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad staff. Initially, it was the plan, but I'm not sure whether in the application or the implementation stage they do open it to the public or not. Because you're right, no, Dr. Asma. In this context, it is mudarabah. Okay? It is mudarabah, and everybody knows in mudarabah, whatever loss, if there is, then it would be borne by the investor, not the mudarib. The risk is there, and I'm very sure. And number one, the risk is there. Number two, the risk is aggravated by the fact that the recipients are not any regular mudarib or regular entrepreneurs. They are initially the B40. They are initially the one who might previously categorized as asnaf. They are the one who do not have previous experience in doing businesses. But again, they are willing to be trained by the training provider. And as an investor, if I put myself in their shoes, then I will, at the earlier stage, I will realize that I put my 10,000 ringgit or 2,000 ringgit or whatever amount in this, because that 10,000 ringgit is for one business maximum. You can invest 1,000 ringgit, you can invest whatever amount. This amount I'm investing, I do realize that the risk is there, the risk is higher, and kalau saya lah, I think this is my my part in contributing to the ummah. The profit, if it is there, if it is generated in the end of the tenure, then alhamdulillah, be it. But if it is not, at least I have played my role in paling tidak pun membantu to alleviate or to assist those yang kata memerlukan, those who in the needs of capital, want to do business but they do not have access to the conventional or the traditional way of getting funds from the banks. And the second question is Mudarib in the second tier F&B. Okay? I'm not sure, Dr. Asma, because this is a very kedai tepi jalan ni, gerai, the beside the street stall. I'm not sure whether they have the kita kata apa ni? They incorporated the halal certification process. I think it's a very good idea, but at this time, I'm not sure whether that objective can be kita boleh achieve ataupun tidak. I know there are, if I'm not mistaken, the Agrobank, Bank Muamalat sendiri. In Bank Muamalat sendiri, they have another type of microfinancing, not this one. Focusing towards certification, halal certification, but it's another segment of participants. Bukan dalam bentuk, it is not in this program. For this program, it is meant for a very small entrepreneur, up to 10,000 ringgit only, not the one with 50,000 maximum tadi kan, 50,000. It is for the very small entrepreneurs. Macam saya sebut tadi lah, gerai tepi jalan and things like that, yang jual burger and so on and so forth. It's a very good idea, but I think for a start, maybe we can give, kalau jual burger tu, for example, make sure that the training provider can ask the participants to ensure all their supplies, daging burgernya, or the patties, roti, and so on and so forth, sourced from the halal certified suppliers. But what if program dia or the business is pisang goreng? It's quite memanglah pisang goreng. You can ask again. Tepung, the flour from halal, ada chop yakin kat situ in Malaysia, for example. Minyak dia daripada minyak yang ada semua halal. And in Malaysia, as also I believe in Indonesia, it is not hard lah, bukan susah kita nak cari makanan halal in terms of bahan mentah dan sebagainya. But for halal certification as kita kata requirements that is stated there, I think it is not being put as a formal requirements for the entrepreneurs or the mudarib to fulfill. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, thank you. We have question in the chat room, Mr. From Pak Bayu Arifianto from Universitas Erlangga. Dr. Azizi, thank you for your wonderful presentation. Could you please explain about the landscape or architecture of microfinance and Islamic microfinance in Malaysia, type of microfinance in Malaysia, and about the monitoring and supervision? Any informal institution to provide microfinancing? Thank you.
This question grants another section. I think will not fit the 1.5 hour and a very short.
Because microfinance is quite interesting.
Yeah. But as I mentioned in a very brief response, I think landscape or architecture of microfinance, Islamic microfinance in Malaysia, I think I've covered a little glimpse of microfinancing in Malaysia, be it Islamic or the conventional. But if you talk about microfinance, social finance, you will be stumbled upon, for example, Islamically, we will have the zakat, sadaqah, and wakaf base. That's one. Secondly, we will see also for example, Rahan based financing. Although Rahan can be applied in personal financing or business financing, but when we talk about microfinance, which is associated with financing for the entrepreneurs, Rahan can also play its role in that area. And apart from that, we also have microfinance provided by, I mentioned, macam apa ni, Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia. I don't know, in Indonesia, do you have such institution?
Microfinance, we have BMT, I think. Yeah, like cooperation.
Yeah,
Islamic cooperation.
We do have. That's another part of the microfinance spectrum that we can see. And each one of those, I think, grants a specific and a very dedicated. If you want to talk about it, you must have a dedicated, a specific session for each and every segments in the microfinancing segments that I've mentioned, at least. And about monitoring and supervision, it will be highly dependent on the model that you adopt. For example, if you are talking about microfinancing done by the banks, then the supervision, the banks is subject to Bank Negara Malaysia, Central Banks of Malaysia here. And as I've shared, the policy documents, one policy document on Mudaraba. Why Mudaraba? Because it is structured. Itecat Mawaddah is structured based on Mudaraba. You want it or not, you have to adhere to the policy document Mudaraba published by Bank Negara Malaysia. If not, then the bank will be considered as violating the legal requirements. That's for the banks. As for other types of institutions, for example, maybe since they are not that highly regulated, like the commercial banks or the FI institutions, the monitoring may be quite loose, but there's still an act governing, for example, Akta Pajak Gadai in Malaysia. And untuk AIM, another monitoring and supervision model would be applied. It is not the same. You can't apply the same approach across the board, because the different models, the different approaches, the different issues, the different target segments, although it's quite, the objective is to alleviate or to help, to assist the devotees or the those who live in poverty to better themselves, but the approaches are different, so the monitoring and supervision, I believe, should be different. Allah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Azizi. How's maybe Dr. Asma and Pak Bayu? Any feedback? Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, is any other question? There is no question. Okay. I think we already finished our lecture, Doctor. There is no question. It is very clear. Thank you very much. Thank you to the presenter and all participants who already participated in this event. Thank you. I think I return to the MC. Ya, Mbak Akila. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Madam Puji Sucia Sukmaningrum and Mr. Azizi bin Cik Suman for the precious knowledge and information just now. Moving on to our next agenda, I would like to call upon Nurul Shafika binti Sahid for a quiz session with all the participants. Please welcome.
Thank you, Nurul Akila. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For the quiz session, the form platform will be used and participants will be given 5 minutes to answer the quiz. The Google Forms link will be shared in the Zoom chat box. Are you guys ready? So, if you are, then the quiz will begin now. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. I would like to thank all attendees for participating in the quiz just now. The quiz session has ended. I end my duty as Master of Quiz Session, and I shall allow the Master of Ceremony to proceed. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Nur Shafika binti Sahib, for the wonderful and interesting quiz just now. As the saying goes, to every beginning there is an ending. And now our third guest lecture has come to its end. Before we disperse, I would like to remind all attendees to fill in the feedback form that has been attached in the chat session. Once again, thank you everyone for gracing our ceremony with your presence. We truly appreciate it. On behalf of the organizing communities, I would like to apologize for any mistakes or shortcomings throughout the event. I am my duty as Master of Ceremony for today's event with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For remembrance, I would like to invite all panel, guests, ladies and gentlemen, to be ready and turn on your camera for our photography session. We will be having 2 rounds of photography sessions. The first round will be for the panel and guests, and the second one will be for all participants. I repeat, the first round will be for the panel and guests, and the second one will be for all participants.
Okay, ready? I'll count 1 to 3. Then I will take the picture. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, once again. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you.
I invite all the participants to open your camera. I repeat, I invite all the participants to open your camera. Thank you.
Okay, is everyone ready? We will take the picture 3 times for 3 slides, 3 sections. Okay, for the first section, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, second section. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, and the last section. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, done. Thank you.
On behalf of Department of Sharia and Economics, University Malaya, we once again would like to thank you for making time in your busy schedules to join us here today. We hope you gain some new knowledge and insight from today's lecture and